Konnichiwa, Nihon Cricket Pod do Yokoso. Welcome back, listeners. It's been a while. Sorry for that. Busy, busy times in Japan cricket, but I would not leave you stranded without a goodbye. And this isn't a goodbye. This is simply a return to form. My name is Alan Kerr. I am Head of Cricket Operations at the Japan Cricket Association. And today I have a guest who, well, let's just say her link to Japan was brief, but altogether meaningful. She has been a friend of mine for many years. She is a former assistant editor at ESPN Cricket Info. She has stood on many ICC panels in her time as a journalist, and she is currently traveling around the world, checking out cricket in as many countries as she can possibly get to. Jenny Thompson, welcome onto the Japan Cricket Podcast.
Hello, Alan. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure, Jen. I guess we should start with, where are you now?
I'm currently in London this morning.
Boring.
Oh, come on. I've just come from Jersey and I'm going to Sweden. And I'm dropping in to see the manager of the Philippines and also the Divas, who are the Hong Kong-based team. And we're going to watch India versus Australia at the Oval. So I feel that's kind of a world flavour.
Yeah, you're doing all right there. You're doing all right. But, we obviously planned to do this interview, I don't know, a month ago, even longer than that, 5-6 weeks ago when you were in Japan. But between you and I, it's taken, 6 weeks to actually get around to it. And in that time, you've probably been to, I don't know, 10, 12 more countries. Lost track a little bit. So we should probably just start with that. So you're in England at the moment. You've just covered a little bit of Europe. The obvious questions are, what are you doing and why are you doing it?
Well, Alan, I'm going, as you said in the introduction, I'm going around the world looking at women's cricket and playing where possible. And the reason that I'm doing it is because I'm very interested in how cricket is delivered in different countries. Because, first of all, that's just interesting, right? And who wouldn't want to play cricket in as many countries as you can? That's a bit of a dream for a lot of us. But I'm also interested in, the barriers to playing in the different countries, and the challenges, but also how they're overcome and why people play, particularly in countries that you just wouldn't expect, like I've always been interested in the different, if you will. So you mentioned, I used to work for Cricket Info, and there I did a lot of work as well as on men's cricket. I did a lot of work on women's cricket at a time when nobody else was really. There were, this is true. There'd be World Cups that pretty much were attended by myself and Alison Mitchell, who's, obviously the world famous cricket journalist. And, it would sort of be the case of, I'll be like the world print media and you do the audio and the video. I mean, that obviously there were a few other journalists here and there, but it was, when you look at the difference within sort of 10, 15 years, how women's cricket's exploded, it's absolutely crazy. So then these days, if you want to, and I do want to, look at difference, then it's absolutely fascinating to me where cricket is played and, how much passion that there is around the game and the lengths that women in particular will go to play cricket. It's very reminiscent of, growing up in England where you didn't know that there was women's cricket so much. So, it's been really fascinating so far. I've been to 12 countries and I just can't wait to get to more. The more countries that I go to, the more that I want to go to. It's pretty addictive and it's really fascinating.
It's funny, I always used to say that. For those who don't know my background, I was a travel agent for many years before I came to cricket. And I always used to say, whenever I went away on a trip, you'd have your list of places you want to go next. And you'd go on a trip and you'd be hoping you'd be ticking off one of those places, but you'd actually come back with like half a dozen more countries that you want to visit just from chatting to other people who'd been to those places. So the list never gets shorter. So until you've been everywhere, Jen, you're kind of stuck. You're committed now.
I'm getting that impression.
So you've touched on it on a personal level. Do you think that this trip, and I mean, obviously, as a career journalist and you know friends with broadcasters, this isn't the first podcast that you've done. I know you've been on a few. Do you think that you can have a positive impact on the game as a whole by seeing these places and shining a bit of a light on what's going on?
Absolutely. My aim is to have an influence personally, if possible, just by doing this, because it's kind of an unusual thing to do. And you know, I've already had feedback as I've gone along and met some people, and you know, they are in terms of whatever your dream is, it doesn't necessarily have to be in cricket, but then again, like to talk on the macro level, absolutely. I feel, you know, I will be in a, and I'm already getting into a pretty unique position of knowledge. And I'm hoping to be able to share that knowledge in order for improvements in the game, which could be, like you say, you know, shining the light, even the awareness of, you know, the issues that are going on in different countries. And then, you know, hopefully by the end of it, we'll be able to draw some very holistic conclusions and, you know, make some recommendations just based on what I've seen. And, you know, as also as I'm going along, I'm meeting so many people. I love connecting people. Malcolm Gladwell has these categories of people. I'm definitely a connector. So I love putting people in touch. So if I'm in one country and they've mentioned they maybe have an issue, I might be like, you know, go and check that other country out. They've just solved that. I'll put you in touch. You can have a conversation. So, you know, I'm interested in beneficial change at, you know, be it an individual level or a larger level. And in many ways, I don't know what I can do until I'm doing it, if you know what I mean. So this is really 12 countries in, it's still at the start. So there'll be a huge amount of opportunities and challenges that arise still as I go along. So I'm looking forward to that. But I will be writing a book at the end of this as well. So, you know, you just don't know, you don't know the impact, but I just think that by the nature of what I'm doing, change has to happen somehow, and we'll just have to see.
How many more countries have you got on the list as it stands?
It's just the ever increasing list. So, you know, like you said, it's never going to stop. So it changes every day. It expands every day. So I think, you know, I've got as many as I started with, but I've got about 15.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean that's the thing, right? Because you said you've done 12 already and it's still the beginning. So just to give some perspective to people out there, one of the things that we discussed previously was trying to get to all the countries with a women's T20I ranking. So we are talking 50, 60, 70 potential countries. So yeah, you're going to be a busy girl. And I guess it's worth just bringing up the fact that you're doing this all off your own back, right? This is a self-run, self-funded project that was your own initiative. You're not doing it with the support or official backing of the ICC, which I guess puts you in quite a nice position where you can be completely independent. You can make your own judgments. You're not tied to anything. And when you say things like you want to shine a light on all the positives, but also you want to shine light on the challenges, a lot of what we read about women's cricket in particular, and I understand why it is like this, is very overly positive. And look how wonderful it is that there's these girls playing cricket, but it doesn't say there's only 30 compared to 30,000 playing men's cricket in the same country. Yes, it's great and we want to accentuate the positives, but for women's cricket to become a truly global game, those numbers have to get a lot closer. And I guess that's where we see it at the top level in England and Australia particularly. Equality of pay and success on the field and all of that stuff is getting much, much better. But that doesn't exist in the vast majority of other countries. And is that something that you've seen so far?
Yeah, that's so well summed up. I'm glad you said that. Thanks, Alan. Yes, it is something that I've seen so far, right? But I've come in with an expectation that there's gonna just be hardly any women's cricket anyway. So to have some is a great start in the first place. And you've mentioned, of course, England, India, Australia, their infrastructure and advancement and their money, right? But I'm coming from England and it wasn't that good not that long ago, right? So I'm hopeful that the difference is these are the countries, and the ICC are really behind women's cricket now, much more so than they ever were. So if they can use the other countries and the ICC can use the model of how successful women's cricket is in the bigger countries, and I think development in the other countries can be so much more rapid than for England. Like that took a long time, but now they're there as an example. Women's cricket is the fastest growing sport in Asia, I'm led to believe. I haven't looked at the stats yet on that, but that keeps getting quoted. So yes, there are fewer women in every country playing than the men, but I think that's to be expected. I don't think that's anything to be disappointed by. And if anything, I am encouraged by the fact that, I didn't know there was women's cricket in the Philippines, and I went and there was just 35 women just playing locally. There they were. So it will take time, and there is disadvantage in being women. It's hard to get media coverage, it's hard to get funding, and the actual being a player, there are extra challenges. You might drop out in terms of retention. There might be you drop out to have family, you drop out because you're not allowed to play by your family or anything like that. But I think we can be encouraged, because to me it's all just at the beginning in many ways. And to me, coming sort of yes, I've got the background in cricket, but I had a long time out of cricket, so coming back fresh and finding all these countries playing and seeing them playing, seeing the skills in the countries is encouraging. And I think we can just be encouraged for now, and then we can over time make the recommendations and get a little bit more critical, if you will. But back in the day, in the early 2000s, I was very mindful of my coverage of women's cricket that people didn't know about it at all, right? So you had to, and so there's the parallel with today. I think you have to start with, this is going on, and isn't it great? And look at these, there's few women playing, so they are role models. This is what they're doing. You can't expect women who have no real time, who have to have careers to play cricket, to have the high level. So you can't particularly criticize that. You can just say, look, this is what they're doing in spite of everything else. So it's a pretty good standard for what it is, and let's encourage that, and let's realize these are role models and people will take their example. And back in the day, again, England cricket wasn't brilliant. Like women's cricket wasn't brilliant. It was 2 or 3 and over. It was pretty boring superficially, but it wasn't that the players had no talent. It was that it was the mindset of the game also, not to be so attacking, but at the same time, it was, the women don't have those opportunities to be professionals, and look what they can do when they do have those opportunities. So, I remember Jared Kimber was talking about the first time he got critical in a press conference, and it really surprised, I think it was Charlotte Edwards, because she wasn't used to it. Well, I think, that at that point, that was right to go harder. But it has to all be located in the context.
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? You have to boost participation first. You boost participation, you're naturally going to get a raise in standards. And once you said, as you said, once people start becoming professional, expectations increase, and therefore people will call you into question, but standards will continue to increase. And that's what being a role model is, isn't it? You have to have some people who come first. I'm really interested in one of the things you mentioned right at the start about sort of the passion and the enjoyment you're seeing out on the field. Now, as someone who's been in associate cricket for the last 10 years and who followed associate cricket for a long time before that, I've seen, and of course there is a best word to describe this. There's an assumption, I guess, from people around the world that most associate nations are just full of expat players, and that it's Indians, Aussies, Brits, who are taking cricket to these countries. And there is some truth in that on the men's side. But I'm going to assume that that is not the case at all in the places that you've been, and that it is, 100% participation or close to of, Filipinos, Japanese, Malaysians, whatever. Is that the case?
That's largely the case, I would say. And mainly, though, the people delivering cricket would be expats. And that makes sense, doesn't it? Because they're the people with the background in it, with the passion, who want to implement their passion in their new chosen country. So that makes sense. And yeah, I mean, from the very start, my first match was a club match in Hong Kong with the Filipina team, the Divas, who all live in Hong Kong, and the domestic helpers there. And then we played Hong Kong Cricket Club, who were full of people who were born there. And it was wonderful for me just to think, here I am playing cricket with people who are just, from this country or from the Philippines. Very, very lovely. And then in Vietnam, and in fact in Kawasaki, there are some expats in the team, but they're not from traditional. Some of them are not from traditional cricket countries. So there was Jeanette from Kawasaki. She's from America. Then in Vietnam, there were there was a German player, and it was just it's very interesting how sport can be such an easy way in for an expat. But it's interesting chatting with some of the expats who say, the sports that we played in our country, yes, fine, but you want to do something different when you come to a new country. So cricket is definitely different, and I love that it's different for people from the country, and then it's different for people, moving in. So yeah, I also find it very interesting talking with the administrations of various countries, obviously Japan, but also Malaysia and Turkey, in terms of the strategy of growing the game. And Turkey, had people had, they decided that their strategy, they'd heard other country ways to fast track development, but they want to go very much with people who were born in Turkey, who are from Turkey, because they, like Malaysia, like Japan, have a very long-term vision for cricket, and it will take longer, right, to get your people born in that country who've had no background in the game to take to the game. But when you do that, it's so much more sustainable. And Turkey, interestingly, said to me, their vision is they want in 10 years to see cricket being played on the streets. And it's interesting because often it's the other way around, isn't it? But that's one measure of success for Turkey, to embed cricket in the culture. And I do find that interesting as I'm going along. asking, where is cricket visible in in a society, because it needs to be visible. And obviously it was lovely to come to Sano, the cricket town, and see cricket everywhere. There were stickers of cricket on vending machines. I saw posters in shop windows. There's obviously the hotel Sun Route that I stayed at that's cricket themed. And I got to play with Erica Oda in Kawasaki, and then so we become friends. And then she was saying she got so excited because cricket was on the television in the pub in Japan the other day. And when like this has ever been the case with women's cricket and associate cricket, so it's right in the pocket of what I'm doing. But visibility is key, isn't it, in the media? And if it's there, people know about it. But how are you to know about it if you can't see it?
Yeah, you can't be what you can't see, right?
That's
So
right.
what's the biggest learning that you've had so far? If you could name one thing that you've gone, yeah, okay, I didn't expect that, or I can take that and use it elsewhere. What would you pinpoint?
Alan, you asked the big questions. I think very personally, because this is the biggest thing that I've ever done, and it caused me a lot of anxiety before I went. I've had the biggest panic attacks of my life before I went. But my learning as I've gone along, I'm less anxious now than I've ever been in my life. It's so bizarre. So my learning is very much just to trust what I'm doing, and it feels like I'm doing the right thing, right? So I'm very, very relaxed about it. That's
Good.
been my biggest personal learning. And I think again, also just on another level, is just make no assumptions. You don't know what you're gonna find, and you can assume, people's lifestyles or situations that they're in must be hell or awful, or you know but you can never assume how things are for people till you find. And I think as humans, it's very easy for us to make assumptions and models, because that's how we try and survive in the world. But then, you know, you've got to, as a person, but as some kind of journalist, or if you're in the police, you've got to take those assumptions away and just. I think that's the whole thing, isn't it? I'm just rolling with it and learning as I'm going along, no assumptions, and yeah. I don't know. Did that answer your question?
Oh, well, kind of. I guess it's almost answered my next question as well. Actually, was going to be what's surprised you the most? What's been at what point have you just gone, wow, I didn't see that coming, or is that actually the fact that you had all these anxieties before you left, and now you're like, oh, I didn't need to be that anxious, did I? Things tend
No,
to work out.
I think what's great is I've been able to very quickly take any personal worries, personal, like, just completely take myself out of the equation, if you will, and I can really just focus on getting to know people and getting to know the macro politics that affect their game and their lives. And yeah, really, really get embedded very quickly into the culture, and find out what's important, and the challenges, and then how they can be overcome.
Sport and travel, hey Jen, brings out the best in the
Yeah,
world, doesn't it?
that's it.
What do you think the next part's going to hold then? I mean, you've kind of covered most of Asia, or a large chunk of it at least, and Europe now, and then South America, I think, is lined up, and I'm not sure if you're heading to Africa as well. But what do you what are your expectations? Is it just more of the same, or you just excited about meeting the people?
Um, yeah, pretty much what you've said. I'm going to all of the Americas. I'm definitely going to Africa. I also want to go to the Middle East. At this point, my aim is to, yeah, pretty much more of the same, in that I feel like I'm in the groove now in what I'm doing and what is important and what I need to know. And if not, I can always have some follow-up questions. So my aim is to continue doing what I'm doing, complete the tour as far as I can, because it would never be complete, I suppose, just like call a line in the sand and then take a deep breath and have some huge reflections on what has been important, what is important, and what needs to be done from here. But there's as I'm going along, also, I've set myself up as a sort of volunteer slash ambassador. So, if anyone needs any coaching, I can do that. So I've done a few little I've given a few tips and that sort of thing, but also, if people need any communication, like assistance or anything, I can do that. So, the I've there's been various opportunities, but the divas in particular, or they have so many exciting plans that I'm about to discuss today at the Oval. So watch this space for what's going on with them. It's very, very exciting, actually.
Yeah, great. All right, well, look, we are on the Japan Cricket Podcast, so we should probably talk a little bit more about Japan.
Please.
You had, what, 5-6 days here? And yeah, we should just look back over that, I guess. You were here in the build-up to the Japan Futures League. You spent a bit of time at the home of cricket in Japan, of Sano City, and chatted to the JCA. What was your sort of take home from that? What were your impressions of cricket in Japan to begin with?
Alan, I loved my week in Japan. Thank you so much for everything that you helped me with, your hospitality, and to Alex and to everyone there. What a week. It was so superb. You'll have seen comments on my social media from different boards who say that Japan are held up as, the example of how to run cricket in your region. And that is absolutely fair comment. I mean, of all the places to be surprised about, Japan was my least surprising because you're my friend. So I've known for a decade of, what's been going on there. And it was really, really, really very exciting to come and see absolutely everything that you're doing. The cricket ground, as I did mention on my socials, it's just it's a beautiful ground. It's very reminiscent. It's the most English style ground that I've been to outside of England, and that includes Australia. In that, it's just got that beautiful feeling of tranquility, and that it was very civilized. Let's have a cup of tea. That sort of beautiful English summer day. It's just a beautiful location. The ground is so well maintained, and it's just set in amongst those beautiful green hills. Yes, I'm going off into a bit of a reverie now. So I really love that. Talking with Alex, your CEO, he's just so fabulous. I just love his passion and his beliefs and his vision and his drive, and brilliant. And I know one of the things that you're very proud about for yourself that you've helped achieve is to bring a sense of belonging and understanding for people who have one Japanese parent and one non-Japanese parent, because as you told me, many people have never met someone else in that situation, but you've been able to provide cricket to bring that together for that shared experience, which is absolutely lovely. And I really enjoyed the time in Sano, and everybody who works at the JCA was so lovely and passionate as well. Absolutely love that passion. And then I tell you as well, I absolutely love that scoreboard and the sight screen, which
I
has
had a feeling
been
you were going to say that. I got some sad news for you about that. So literally about 3 days after you left, one of the scoreboards fell down in the wind and has suffered some fairly serious damage. Still got three left. And then
oh
on
no,
Monday, just gone, the scoreboard's
oh
gone
no,
down too. The scoreboard is currently lying in a heap at the far end of the ground. One of the wheels looks like it's rotten and come off. So yeah,
oh no.
we've got a bit of a repair job on our hands with those. But they do provide a lot of character, don't they? And a lot of sort of like you said, that whole feeling, that whole vibe of what a cricket grounds for people like us from England is should be like. But the practical side of it and how heavy they are and the maintenance that was required is perhaps proving a little bit beyond us. But they've had 5 good years. We'll continue to work on them as much as we can and see if we can get them back upright. Sorry, hold on a sec. What's up? So yes, the scoreboard and the sight screen they're going to need a bit of work, but hopefully they will come again. What about women's cricket now? We talked a bit, I mentioned just a minute ago, Japan's got around 5,000-6,000 registered players in total, but our women's numbers are more like 100, 150 probably, in terms of playing sort of regular hardball cricket. You had the chance to actually play in the women's league match down in Kawasaki, as you mentioned. What did you make of that? How did it rate amongst? I mean, you've been to a few more countries since you were here, so how does that experience sit with what your expectations were for women's cricket in Japan? And since you've been away, how has that now compare with some of the other experiences you've had?
I wasn't sure the standard to expect before I came, but by the time I played in Japan, which was my 7th or 8th country, I sort of had a feeling about what kind of standard to expect. And it's actually the story of club cricket everywhere, which is you've got some really good players and then some developing players. So I wasn't nervous by the time that I got to Japan. I was extremely excited to play a match under lights because that had never happened before. And the skills like Erica, it was a privilege to play with Erica and watch her play. Her batting is phenomenal. It was just that clean striking. It was so beautiful to watch. And then the opposition, I don't know how to say Adore.
Adore.
But anyway, Adore. They had some great players, some like real pace. So it was great, and I loved again, cricket is not always just about skill either. It's about the enjoyment, because that's why you're doing it. And everybody just was loving it. And I just love looking around personally. I love just looking around. It's a Saturday night in Kawasaki, and look, women are playing cricket. This is, that is great, right? That's not this really not something you'd expect. So it's just great for that to be happening in itself. But the actual ground was also interesting in that we were playing on an AstroTurf football pitch, pretty much, with sort of
Flex
with
pitch rolled
fencing.
out and very short square boundaries.
Yeah, but that it doesn't matter. It didn't matter. I liked it because it's different, and it doesn't matter. You're playing cricket. You're playing umpired cricket, and then I had been warned about the mat and the low bounce on it, and I still got stumped. But that I think that mat was that would be my only recommendation. If something could be done, and not just because I got out, if something could be done about that mat. But other than that, it doesn't matter. The players there explain the challenges of lack of facilities available for cricket, lack of land available, and that's when you get ingenious and inventive, isn't it? And you just adapt and you do what you can, and that was what had happened there. And
Yeah.
everyone had.
Yeah, one of the challenges for us, grounds within Tokyo, particularly for women's cricket, you try and get players, you want to make it as accessible as possible. And the reality is there's just not many places to play within Tokyo. And when you're trying to reach a new audience, it's quite a big ask for them to travel a couple of hours on a weekend to play in Sano. So you have to get them playing somewhere first, and then the ones who enjoy it the most, have the most talent, whatever, they become more committed and more willing to travel, and they hopefully come here and they have a really positive experience. And we're trying to play more cricket, more women's cricket here this year. We're certainly doing a lot more than we have done in the past. We had the first J-Bash match a couple of weeks ago. We've got the Japan Women's Premier League running for the first time this year. We've got 10 players coming from overseas to join that. So that's going to hopefully raise the standard and get a bit of a profile up as well. Women from South Africa, from Hong Kong, from Australia. So that should be pretty good.
That's brilliant.
And yeah, just the opportunity to play on the turf as well, and to play on full size grounds, because as you say, playing on a slightly funny size grounds for the women's players who then go into tournaments and they play all of their league cricket at least has been played on a funny size ground. They don't know the fielding positions right because they don't have the angles. And so that was something that Dino, who's making the rustling sound you can hear in the background, was quite keen to fix in his second year in the job coach in the women's team. So yeah, looking to do a bit more of that and hopefully give them a better chance to perform. And you mentioned Erica Oda. She went off to Hong Kong, not Hong Kong, she went off to China. We were all there a couple of weeks ago for the Women's East Asia Cup, and she was pretty much the leading batter in the tournament. She wasn't quite the leading run scorer because we played a game less in the end, but her average was almost 15 runs better than anyone else. And she had the highest individual score of the tournament as well by striking 46 in one of the games. So desperately close to a maiden international half century, but she's someone who just knows her game really well now. And she only picked up the sport at 30, 31. And here she is now at 36 or so, I think. Knows the game so well and is able to sort of be a real leader in the group. So it's been really fantastic. It's been watching players like that come through and drive other people as well. She's formed her own club. She's, driving participation. And the more people like that you have in the sport, taking it forward, the faster you're going to see the sport grow. But, as an association, there's only so much we can do. We need sort of the foot soldiers, if you like. And hopefully what you're doing is you're actually helping to identify some of those people and through a connection with you by meeting them, they then get to see that connection with the rest of the world that they can have too. And that's what sport is all about, right? And when we take players and teams overseas, we want them to make friends with the other teams and the opposition. And we want cricket to be a game that opens doors, because Japanese sport is quite insular. They play a lot of baseball, but they only play against each other. They are quite, the opportunities to actually mix with other cultures are quite restricted, whereas cricket, that's definitely the biggest thing that we have, and it's something that we definitely are keen to celebrate, that sort of diversity in the sport. Anyway, I'm getting carried away onto the JCA's sort of stuff. I guess the last question I had specifically on your trip was, you may have covered this a little bit already, has your opinion on the state of the game worldwide changed since you started this journey?
I didn't really have a huge opinion before I started, actually, which is it's a good position to come from. So then I can just be very open-minded because I don't have an opinion. But I'll tell you one thing, as we've been talking as well, that's really occurred to me is the grass wickets and the hard wickets. It's a massive thing. So I've just been in Jersey, and because teams don't play on grass, they had the tournament on hard wicket, which I thought was lovely and equitable. But Jersey found that something of a disadvantage because they always play on grass. So, I play in Adelaide on grass on a Sunday and hard wicket on a Monday, and then I train grass or hard wicket, and I see it every week how different that is. And Indonesia do not have any grass grass cricket opportunity whatsoever. That's something that is a thing I would love to change. But how hard is that when it's so expensive and you need the expertise in the groundskeeping of it? I mean, you know all of this. So any country that has grass facilities that is well maintained, such as Japan, is very commendable, but it's also very lucky for those players because it is a completely different game, actually, I think. But you understand the challenges and how hard it is to provide that. So in an ideal world, everyone would play on grass.
Yeah, one of the things I hope that we can do, or we might see in the coming years, is that, you know, it might be for years, we've touched on this already, it's the coaches, the drivers tend to be people from cricket playing nations, tend to be expats who have moved, and they're the ones sort of leading the charge. Now, actually, I think that in the future, perhaps we'll see the biggest contributor might be those grounds people, the people who are, you know, learning that trade at 20, 21, 22. They might well end up in their mid to late 20s going to work in associate nations and helping develop pitches there, rather than just working at a local club in England or Australia or somewhere like that, where those jobs will always be there and they can always come back. Whereas over in a country like Japan, or, you know, we don't have a full-time groundsman at the moment. We're working off sort of our own staff, kind of learning on the hoof and getting consultants in. We've got a consultant over from South Africa right now, actually. But you know, there is definite opportunity there for people to get that experience, that sort of life experience of living in a different country and contributing to cricket. You know, it's a pretty good way to spend your time, I reckon. All right, Jen. Look, Guy, we've been going for a while, and you've obviously got a test match to get to in a few hours. So I always finish my podcast with a series of questions. I've had to tailor them slightly for you because you're somewhat unique in terms of my guests. But these are all cricket specific questions. You don't have to think about them too much. Whatever first comes into your head.
Okay.
But we'll start off with the best player you've ever played with or against.
Oh, probably Karen Rolton. She was my first captain in club cricket in Australia, and I just remember she was the current captain of Australia at the time, and I just remember standing at the other end. We put on, like, for example, one match we put on 46. I think I contributed 6. And just to hear that ball fizz past it here when she absolutely cracked it was just privilege. Brilliant.
What's the best thing you've ever learned from a coach?
The best thing I ever learned from a coach was one piece of advice. And he said to me, he said, only use the advice that works for you. And ironically, that was the only piece of advice that he gave me that worked for me. But it's totally true. And then the other one was not from a coach, it was from Claire Taylor, and who just said, always watch the ball, like watch the ball onto your bat, watch the ball into your hands when you're fielding. And it's so true. My concentration, my attention wanders a bit, but when I remember that, it makes the difference.
Favorite shot?
Favorite shot. When I was learning, we didn't have any lofted drives, so I've been trying to learn those, and that is my favorite shot when I can play them. But my most productive shot is the pull shot, to the point where back in my club, some of my young teammates said to me, damning me with faint praise, they said, Jenny, can you teach us your shot? I said, what about all my other ones?
What about all my other ones?
Yeah.
What's your first thought upon being dismissed?
I don't know. I don't know that I think of anything.
Just blank mind, red mist.
That's it. Yeah.
Career highlight? Doesn't have to be on field.
Well, one of the best days of my life was just playing in an organised cricket match at school with the boys. I was like, my name is in a school book. because that was never an opportunity when I was younger that I knew about. And that, that was probably the best thing ever, because it then opened everything else up.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Is there any loss that you can remember that's particularly great?
Yes. It was it was either the quarterfinal or the semi-final of the British Unis competition, and Leeds, we'd gone up to Durham, and we were that short, and I went to play my favourite pool shot. I was on 70 odd and played a course at, was LBW, and that day I remember the disappointment of getting out immediately, and I just cried in the changing room, because this Leeds team was essentially 3 cricketers and then players who were not particularly people from team sport, but they'd been, attracted to try something new. And, I was the captain, and then I always made sure, and I still make sure, that people have fun and are included in cricket, because that's what it's all about. To me, it really is. So we'd had this extraordinary run of team. It was the team spirit and everything, and then just the disappointment. I mean, we did much better than anyone had thought, but just, when you have that dream that you can go so far, it's so good. But also one day, we used to play as Lancashire and Cheshire back in the day, and then the ECB took us over and wanted to replicate the men's structure much more, which made sense. So we were offered as Lancashire and Cheshire to play for whichever county we wanted to. And I picked Cheshire because that's where I'm from, even though I could see all the money and the opportunities were going for Lancashire, but that I was just like, it was in my heart for Cheshire. And then Lancashire demoted us on the last day of the county championship, and that was so disappointing. But actually, what was more disappointing was Lancashire's attitude. They were so happy to do it, and they played Mel, which Spice Girl. Well, anyway, one of the Spice Girls song, "You're Going Down," over the stereo that they'd specifically bought, and I thought, that is the poorest sportsmanship I've ever seen in my life. And when I think about it now, my disappointment is more in Lancashire than the fact that Cheshire got demoted, because you don't do that. And like in women's cricket, like I know that all the associate countries even are friends with each other and they help each other. And that used to be the case in county, but that stuck out as like very poor. But just on that note, in Jersey, Germany's kit didn't turn up for days, so the other teams were quickly helping them and lending them. And I heard Turkey turned up without stumps and bottle holders, so Jersey gave them all the equipment that they needed. And that's the spirit that we play cricket in, and that's overall what it's more like. But yeah, those are the 2 disappointments that stick out for me.
It's funny, whenever I ask that question, people always have very visceral answers. And I often think we actually remember the games that we lose and we hated losing more than the games that we enjoyed winning.
Yes.
What's your favorite format of the game to play and to watch?
I love 2020 to play. But it's a concentration thing these days. I don't think I could last 40 or 50 overs. To watch, it's Test cricket, hands down. Absolutely love it. At the ground, probably prefer it watching at home, actually, because then you've got the TV commentary on, and you don't particularly, you know, on a summer's day and you've got like the windows open and the breeze coming through, and
And you can just in and
you
out,
almost
and
don't
it's
have,
great.
yeah, you don't have to watch it, you can feel it. That's
Mm.
what Test cricket is. Or even just, I love, particularly in Australia, driving around with the ABC commentary on, going on a road trip in Australia, just listening to the cricket, and you're just like, this is summer. How good is this? And again, you don't have to, well, I mean, you're almost more connected when it's on the radio because you're sort of drawn into it, but and your mind is forced to concentrate and listen to it, but and formulate the imaginings of it. But so you're more engaged. But you know, again, you don't even have to know because you can feel from the commentary how the cricket's being delivered, and it's the best, and it's
Absolutely.
the ebbs and the flows. You know,
Mm.
it's that
It's
real
funny how
longevity.
those voices of those
Yes,
commentators, they're very much they stay with you, don't they? Just the sound of summer and whatever. Do
yes.
you have a favorite teammate?
I love I love batting with Mel Akers. She's my opening partner in both grass and um, hard wicket cricket in Australia. And Mel is the most competitive person I have ever met in terms of she drives herself super hard. She's so fair, she's so lovely, and she's so modest, and she just wins all the league trophies. This year, there were the presentations for both leagues were on at the same night, unfortunately, and she couldn't be in both places to pick her best player of the tournament trophy up. So I had to pick up the other one for her. But she's a real example to me of someone who is just drives herself to be the best that she can. And it does inspire me. And she absolutely loves training. It's her favorite day of the week. Oh, it's training, it's training. So yeah,
Fantastic.
she's brilliant. You know, we all look to Mel as an example of, you know, do your best and you'll get your
Get the
best
rewards.
results.
Yeah, great. Okay, last one. Do you have one innings or bowling performance played by somebody else that you wish you could have played yourself?
The okay, not I don't I don't ever put myself in that position because I'm very aware of my own limitations. But the innings that I admire, and because of how well crafted that it was, but also it was a seminal moment in the women's game, was Claire Taylor's knock for England against Australia in the semi-final of the T20 World Cup at the Oval in 2009. And what had happened that day, this is this is interesting. Um, the media had sent their mail pretty much, but you know that's a tautology. Journalists down to cover that day because there was a men's match afterwards. But they thought, well, while England are there, we may as well, you know, you can get a sort of 2-for-1, really. So I sat down in this media. I was like, wow, look at all these people watching women's cricket. This is unusual. And all the guys, to wind me up, because they know how to wind me up, just looked at me and they went, Tomo, can the girls hit it off the square? And, you know, I knew they were goading me. So I said, oh, we'll just see, shall we? Because I saw Karen Bolton striding to the crease. And she smacked, this set the tone, she smacked a flat 6 through square. And the guys, I could see they were super impressed. But then Claire came in for England, obviously, and masterminded, and that's very her because she's one of the most formidable brains ever. She's, you know, management consultant, maths at Oxford, and she masterminded this chase, which just left everybody speechless. And to me, that was the turning point of appreciation of women's cricket in England again. Now, in some ways, most of these people would not have seen women's cricket for so many years that they had no idea that it had got so good. But just to see what Claire did that day, I remember actually Andrew Miller from Cricinfo, my old colleague, he turned to me and said, wow, he said, that was the best innings of the tournament. And then he said, men's or women's? And I said, yes, you're right, Andrew, you're right. You are right. And, you know, that was such a turning point moment that is just a masterful innings in my mind.
It's a good one. I like it. It's great to see, Jen, the enthusiasm, the drive that you've got, that this journey is obviously bringing you on. You said you'd had a fair period away from the game. It's good to have you back and to be seeing you back. Doing what you love, doing what you're great at, and long may the journey continue. I'm sure we're all very keen to see how the rest of the trip unfolds. Where can everyone find you on social media?
Okay, so I'm very limited at the moment. I'm very exclusive. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, Her World Cricket Tour, and any good podcast. So here I am today.
I will stick the links to the Facebook and Instagram pages in the show notes for anyone who reads those. And I know you said you're in London at the moment, and I think you said you're off to Sweden next.
Sweden, yes, I've got 4 matches in 3 days, so that's very exciting because I've been missing a bit of cricket recently. I've had a few nets, and an indoor match in Adelaide. Then I'm going to Norway for a few days, and there's a tournament there, which is exciting. And then I'm going to Latvia and Estonia and Finland, then back to England. Then I'm going to Greece and having a day trip to Albania for the day. And then I'll just see, because things keep changing. So it's TBC, there's lots more going on. Then America's definitely in September.
Great. I played cricket in Latvia. I wrote about it for Cricinfo. You might remember, back in 2007 maybe, I think. Yeah, I went and played in the Ice Cricket World Cup in Riga. I played on an ice rink. It was hilarious. If you search on it, you will find it. One of my handful of articles on Cricinfo. It's there. So yes, it might be a little bit warmer by the time you get there. We were there in February, I think. It was freezing.
Oh goodness me! What temperature was it?
Oh yeah, cold. Just maybe I'm getting myself confused. I went to Lithuania in February and it was -28 one day, but that was a holiday. That wasn't a cricket trip. Lithuania and Latvia are next to each other. We'll have to find the Cricinfo article. I'll have a date on it. But yes, yeah, for sure. Fun country, great place. Eastern Europe's wonderful. Look, Jen, safe travels. Enjoy it. And we will look forward to seeing where we see you next.
Yes, thank you. And thanks again so much to yourself for helping me when I was considering doing this. And I said to you, Alan, I've got a crazy cricket idea. And I knew subconsciously I wanted to be talked into it, because for people who don't know, you were part of an expedition who went to Everest to set a Guinness World Record for the highest match of cricket in the world. And then you wrote a book about it, which I edited. So yes, thank you for your support and ideas and advice in coming up with this idea and putting it into motion. And also thank you very much to yourself and the JCA for all of your hospitality while I was there. I had a great time, and it's just brilliant to see Japan cricket. And already, your reputation is well known, but it's just going to keep getting better. So thank you again.
It's our pleasure. Thanks, Jen. Great having you on.